On August 26, 2024, Russia launched one of its most extensive aerial assaults on Ukraine since the war began. Over 100 missiles and approximately 100 drones targeted cities and energy facilities across the country. The attacks marked a significant escalation in the conflict. The strikes resulted in immediate casualties. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed at least 5 fatalities. Emergency services rushed to respond to the attacks. They worked to rescue survivors and provide medical assistance to the injured. The scale of the assault shocked many. It demonstrated Russia's willingness to inflict large-scale damage. The attacks were a clear message. Russia sought to punish Ukraine for its recent military successes. This aerial assault marked a grim turning point in the war. It shattered any hope for a swift resolution to the conflict. The attacks left no doubt. Russia was prepared to wage a long and brutal war. Russia's aerial assault focused heavily on Ukraine's critical infrastructure. Power plants, substations, and transmission lines were hit across multiple regions. The attacks caused widespread power outages. Major cities, including Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Odessa, plunged into darkness. The targeting of energy infrastructure was strategic. Russia aimed to cripple Ukraine's ability to function. The attacks were timed to coincide with the arrival of winter. This was a deliberate tactic to inflict maximum suffering on the Ukrainian people. The destruction of energy infrastructure had immediate and far-reaching consequences. Hospitals struggled to operate on backup power. Schools and businesses were forced to close. Millions of Ukrainians faced the prospect of a long and cold winter without heat or electricity. These attacks on critical infrastructure violated international law. They demonstrated Russia's disregard for civilian life. The international community condemned the strikes as barbaric and inhumane. The aftermath of the attacks was chaotic. Millions of Ukrainians found themselves without power. The loss of electricity disrupted daily life on a massive scale. Communication networks were disrupted, making it difficult for people to contact loved ones or access information. The lack of power had a devastating impact on hospitals. Medical equipment malfunctioned, surgeries were postponed, patients requiring life-saving treatment faced dire circumstances. The situation was particularly dire for those reliant on electric-powered medical devices. As darkness fell, a sense of fear and uncertainty gripped Ukrainian cities. Families huddled together in the darkness, uncertain when or if the power would return. The attack served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present threat to their safety. The Ukrainian spirit, however, remained unbroken. Neighbors helped neighbors. Volunteers distributed candles, blankets, and food. Ukrainians demonstrated remarkable resilience in the face of adversity. They were determined to persevere through the darkness. Section 4. Ukraine's resolute stand. A nation united against aggression. Ukraine's response to the attacks was swift and defiant. President Zelensky addressed the nation, condemning the attacks as acts of terrorism. He vowed that Ukraine would not be broken by Russia's aggression. He rallied his people to resist. The Ukrainian military went on high alert. Air defense systems were activated to counter the threat of further attacks. Ukrainian forces continued to defend their territory, inflicting heavy losses on the invading Russian troops. Their determination remained steadfast. Ukraine appealed to the international community for increased support. They desperately needed more advanced air defense systems to protect their citizens and critical infrastructure. They called for tougher sanctions on Russia to cripple its war machine. Despite the immense challenges they faced, the Ukrainian people remained united. They refused to be intimidated by Russia's aggression. They were determined to fight for their freedom, their independence, and their right to determine their own future. Section 5. A chorus of condemnation. The world reacts to Russia's escalation. The international community reacted to Russia's aerial assault with outrage and condemnation. World leaders denounced the attacks as barbaric and a violation of international law. The United States, the European Union, and NATO issued strong statements of support for Ukraine. Many countries pledged additional humanitarian and military aid to Ukraine. They recognized the urgent need to help Ukraine defend itself against Russia's aggression. The attacks galvanized international support for Ukraine. The United Nations Security Council held an emergency meeting to address the crisis. Diplomatic efforts intensified to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. However, Russia's intransigence remained a major obstacle to any meaningful progress. The attacks on Ukraine had far-reaching consequences for the international order. They underscored the threat posed by Russia's expansionist ambitions. The world watched with bated breath, concerned about the potential for the conflict to escalate further. Section 6: A Grim Dawn, the conflict's trajectory and global implications. Russia's devastating aerial assault on Ukraine marked a dark chapter in the ongoing conflict. The attacks had profound implications for Ukraine, for the region, and for the world. They shattered any hope for a quick end to the war. For Ukraine, the attacks were a stark reminder of the human cost of the conflict. The destruction of critical infrastructure plunged millions into darkness and hardship. The attacks tested the resilience of the Ukrainian people, but their determination remained unbroken. The conflict's trajectory remained uncertain. Russia showed no signs of relenting in its aggression. Ukraine, with the unwavering support of its allies, seemed determined to fight for its survival. The world braced itself for a protracted and bloody conflict. The war in Ukraine had far-reaching consequences. It destabilized the region, triggered a global energy crisis, and exacerbated geopolitical tensions. The conflict served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of upholding the international rules-based order.